over here in Burlington at the Cops and Cars show. I don't know exactly how long the show's been going on, but I know they've done it for a few years. This is a Father's Day show, so thank you to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day. Very excited. We got way better weather than I think any of us were expecting, so we're very grateful. There's a lot of cool stuff here. I get a chance to park with some of the Mustang guys, so some very cool Mustangs I'm going to go through and share. We'll come back around and shoot a little bit of everything, and then we'll come back around at the end and we'll wrap it up.
Hi everybody, my name is Bernie Scipoletti. I'm a retired sergeant with the Burlington Police Department. I'm the person who puts this show together for the police department. It's a charity car show. First let's talk about the charity because that's the most important thing. We do charge the cars that come in $20 a car. Spectators are free, but we do charge the cars $20. We charge for some food, some short money, and we have a ton of raffles out there, which are some great prizes. All of that money gets collected and given to our local food pantry, which is called People Helping People. So none of that money goes back to the police department or any other organization. Everything goes to that charity, which is the best way we could do something like this. But I love classic cars. I have a nice 70 Chevelle that's sitting over there, but I didn't choose to stand in front of that one. I'm standing in front of this one. This is a 1968 Belvedere. This was the car used in A12, which was a ridiculously big car police show back in the 60s into the 70s. It is the reason people my age became police officers. This car here, LAPD, you can't beat this car. This car is iconic. It's on the backs of our shirts. It is the way for us to go. So having old cruisers, having new cruisers, having old cars is terrific. To us, it's a great day. We're on the grass. People with old cars can appreciate that. It's not a hot parking lot. We can open doors. It's good for people to move around, talk. A ton of police officers here just interacting and talking. So charity makes a few bucks. We get to show off cars, especially stuff like this. How can you beat this? But other than that, we appreciate you coming. We appreciate everybody coming. It's a charity show. We couldn't do it without everybody. A ton of volunteers here. I thank all of them as well and everybody who came.
This being the Cops and Kids show, they have some really cool police vehicles here. I'm going to save this one for last. It's the 73 Polara, which is widely considered the greatest patrol car of all time. But they have some really cool stuff here. They have one of these old school paddy wagons down here. We'll walk around and talk about a little bit. They've got some of the newer police cars. I love these old paddy wagons. I think I've shot this one at another show before, but this is so cool to me. I mean, you take a look at these, an old panel van. They throw, a little cage on the back. Just super cool, right? So the Ford F-250. We've got some more of the modern police vehicles, which are unbelievable what they can do. But we do have a 60s Belvedere, which is a great police car. But what I want to actually talk about, like I said in a second, we'll go to that Polara. These cars were super popular back in the day. You can see they had plenty of room. Again, for the officers, there was room for the equipment. Super basic setup. You'd have just an automatic transmission, a big block V8, the Crown Vic next to it. I was just joking with somebody. These Crown Vics were, the bane of my childhood. I grew up near the train tracks in Boston. And if you're being a knucklehead when you're a teenager, you're out with your friends drinking some beers and you saw one of these, Met police Crown Vics coming around the corner, you knew you were going to get chased and it was going to be a crazy night. But these were all over the place. And this car was like ubiquitous for a million years. Ford sold so many of these Crown Vics for police, for fire, for taxi. They lasted forever. But I want to talk about the 73 Polara at the end. The 73 Polara, if you talk to anybody, check out Jay Leno's Garage. He did a whole article on this car. This is considered the greatest police cruiser ever made. 440, really fast. This car would do 140 miles an hour back in the day. It had the high, the heavy duty brakes, the heavy duty suspension, the big radiator. It was plenty big enough. The officers loved this car because it had a ton of space. So as you were trying to put your gear in here, they just had room for everything. There was a lot of space in the back, but these things just performed, right? They would say these cars would do 140 miles an hour all day. They wouldn't overheat, they wouldn't break down, they were just crazy reliable. So when you look at these Polaras, these are like the car everybody wanted back in the day. So, the CHP guys loved this car. Their next favorite car would come into the 5.0s probably about a decade later. And if you saw the 5.0s the CHP had, they actually talked about chasing down like Porsches. But from a performance standpoint, that might have been the greatest car till, then. But just from an overall standpoint, this is widely considered, like I said, the greatest police, cruiser of all time. Very cool 73 Dodge 1969 Mach 1 in Acapulco blue, 390 S-code car, 4-speed, 350 rear end. I got a chance to talk to the owner. He's had it for a few years now. What I really like about this car, and we talked about the you know, just the lines on the 69, the 4 headlights. We were talking about how they set the body up, right? In 70, it would have been a 2 headlight car, and they would have done that, you know, that body cladding on the bottom part of the car that would have said Mach 1. I think the flow of this car with these body lines just works perfectly. And Acapulco blue is just a gorgeous color. If you see over here, we do have the window sticker on the car, and the car would have been $38,444 back in 69. I love the interior on these cars, the high back buckets, with that line that went across, the beautiful wood steering wheel. You know, everything that Ford did on these cars, and I think about the lines, you know, we always debate, you know, what was the best looking Mustang of these generations? Was it the 67 or 68s, or was it the 69 and 70s? And it really depends on preference that day. I love the lines on this car. You know, one of my favorite options they have, and it looks great either way. I also like that you can get these with the factory louvers, look great on the car. But this is just a really nice, clean version of a really nice 69. And then obviously the 390 car, you know, we were just chatting. He said about 3% of the cars in 69 had the 390, because you did have the option for the big block or the 351, which was common. So this was just a really nice version. He said, again, he helped me understand that the first manual option of this was a 3-speed, but when you went to the 390, it automatically bumped it up to the 4-speed. So a very beautiful version of a 69 Mach 1 and that great Acapulco blue. About this very cool 1988 Mustang 5.0. Very rare to have happen. This car has 39,000 original miles. It is a one-owner car, so the gentleman I talked to bought this car new in 88, negotiated it down to about $12,500. We saw the window sticker. This car was listed for about $14,800. He's done a few slight modifications over the years, nothing that really detracts from the car. I like this setup on it. Obviously a black LX. We do have the 16-inch pony wheels. This would have originally come with the 15-inch 10-hole wheels. You guys know I love the 10-hole wheels. They're my favorite. You can see under the hood how clean everything is here. Just everything is where it's supposed to be. We saw a couple of things that we laughed at. This plug here that we always joke about that's always missing in the intake, he has his too. They're always hard to come by. Like, for some reason that plug just got lost. And we talked about, he did make a couple of modifications on the interior just to make it more to his style, and I think they actually work with the car perfectly. He did add the Motorcraft you know, gauge package, which gives you the 140 mile an hour speedometer, and then he did add the tri-bar logo. We've talked about these cars. In 88, you wouldn't have had the tri-bar logo. You would have still had the 85 mile an hour speedometer, but you could tell it's an 88 or an 87 because of the steering wheel, right? This is still the last year. Actually 89 would still halfway through the year would get the airbag steering wheel, so you have the non-airbag steering wheel, but you do have the tri-bar, which you would have in 89. And we talked about it. This car had no Mustang emblems in 87 and 88, so there was no pony, right? In 85, you'd have the round hood ornament, which would have the pony and the tri-bar on top of the hood, but once you got to the more modern style in 87, where they went that more European look, you lost the Mustang emblem altogether. So he added it in because it actually made sense. He wanted to have the Mustang logo on the car, which I don't disagree with at all. This is a super clean version of the car. You know, a lot of people like the LXs because you have the straight exhaust that comes out. It's not hidden like you do with the GT. You don't have the ground effects. A little easier to add the wheels in, and this one is also a sunroof car, so it's a very cool version of this 5.0. Another super low mile car here we're going to talk about. I think you guys all know on the channel my love of the Mach 1s. I had my 04 convertible that I was trying to convert to a Mach 1 because I just think this is a beautiful style, and Ford never made a convertible. This is an 03. I'll show you the really simple way to tell an 03 from an 04. It's about as easy as it gets. So when you walk up, the 03 and 04 didn't change a ton. The 03 would have the tri-bar badge on the side. The 04 would have the 40th anniversary badge on the side. So that's the main difference. If you're walking up to a Mach 1, that's an 03 or an 04, and you're trying to figure out if it's which one it is, just look for the side badge. The 03 has the tri-bar. The 04 has the 40th anniversary pony logo, which is a circle that says 40th anniversary with the pony in it. This one's pretty cool too, and again, all factory original, 4,000 miles, original owner. But what's unique on this one is that it's an automatic. They didn't make a ton of automatics in the Mach 1s. I want to say like 90% of the Mach 1s were manual and only about 10% were the automatics. Ford did a couple of really cool things on this. So this was essentially the motor that they would have in the Cobras, detuned a little bit, not the newer Cobras, but like the 99 2000, right? So 305 horsepower, really cool style. This was kind of like a bridge for the cars to go into. So between getting a regular GT and a Cobra, you would get the Mach 1. And I love that Ford gave us another option. They did some really cool stuff. They had the retro inspired gauges, which look awesome on the car. the retro-inspired seats. We just saw the 69 Mach 1. These seats were inspired by those seats. They look just like they did in 69, obviously with a more modern flair, and they would put some more of that like brushed stainless style. It was in plastic, but it looked like brushed stainless in the middle console stack to give it more of an upmarket look. So I'm a big fan of the SN95 Mach 1s. I think they're criminally underappreciated. If you're looking for something cool in the hobby, I think these are a great car to gravitate towards because they haven't gotten crazy in price now. You can get one with low miles, not this low miles. I mean, this is like the creme de la creme, right? You're gonna spend big money to get something with this amount of low miles, but you can get something with 30 or 40,000 miles still in that $20,000 range, and I think it's a great value for that. The wheels look awesome, it drives great, 300 horsepower, just a really cool retro version of a Mach 1. All right, so we're gonna go into another very cool Mustang. You know, I love these next generation Coyote Mustangs. You know the 5.0 is near and dear to my heart with my 88, but Ford did a great job of bringing the 5.0 name badge back and the heritage right back in the early 2010s. This is a 2015 deep impact blue. I love the color on the car. This car doesn't have a ton of modifications, just has a slight exhaust modification. It also has a cold air intake, which again, you know, day 2 modification, something you would do when you buy the car to get a little more performance. But I really like the style on this car. I think Ford did a great job of being retro inspired, but also making a car that felt new and relevant in the hobby. You know, you think of when the 2005s came out, it was a really cool retro version of the car, but you look at it a couple years later and it felt a little dated. Like I look at these cars now from 2015 and it doesn't look all that different from what you're seeing in the, the 2025 cars. They just did a good job of making a car that was fast, fun, paid homage to the heritage of the Mustang, but also looked relevant and new to what we had going on. I like the color combination on the car. I do like the lighter color seats with the darker backs with that blue, and obviously it's a manual car. You got the really cool toggle switches. So again, I think Ford just did a great job of integrating all the heritage and history into a car that looks cool, looks relevant, and doesn't look dated even 10 years later. We're gonna shoot something super cool tonight. I got to talk to Wally. He's the owner. He's had this truck for 25 years. He picked it up in South Carolina. It was a little rough when he picked it up, but again, it was rough because it was used, right? It was a truck that was in service for a long time. This is a 42 Chevy, straight 6, single barrel carburetor, oil bath air cleaner. But the cool story talking to Wally is the work that's gone into the love in this truck, right? He started to do it over the years, you know, slowly doing the restoration, work with the local vocational school, got the kids involved. They helped paint the truck. He's done all the mechanical work. He was a firefighter mechanic for 30 years in the town of Burlington. And if you see the detail in this truck, there's a couple of really cool things. Obviously, these trucks were beautiful. You know, I think about the functionality of these trucks in the 40s, and they were utilitarian, but when you look at them now, they just look so cool. Like, I think of the new stuff that just looks like a utility thing, you know, just basically a tool. I think these had a style to them. And, you know, they would put in the gold leaf. He put it in for the Breezy Hill Fire Department because that's the neighborhood he grew up in, Burlington. He's a Burlington guy, like, lifelong. So this is the Breezy Hill Fire Department, engine 1, 1942 Chevy. He is going to translate the back of the truck to actually have some benches so people can do, like, parades and stuff in there, which I think is so cool. But you can see all the original firefighting equipment. We have the axes on both sides, the fire extinguishers from American LaFrance, the ladders. This is just such a cool version of an old fire truck. And like I said, I love these old utilitarian vehicles. They just look so cool. And this is the stuff that kept the country going, you know, back in the 1930s and 40s. So just an amazing version of a 42 cool Chevy. We're going to talk about this Heavy Chevy. Now, Chevy made these for 2 years in 71 and 72. There are a few differences on a 71 and 72 Chevy, but this one looks like some modifications, so I'm not 100% sure which version it is. But what I liked about the Heavy Chevys, it was an appearance package in the early 70s for the Chevelles. You had the SSs, you had the standard model like Malibu. This was kind of like a middle ground model. These typically came with a 350 4-speed manual, the more basic interior. So you see like the bar speedometer, no real external gauges, right? Most of the other stuff would be kind of like warning lights, right? So it was a cool version of the car that if a younger kid want to buy, think about what they were doing with like the GTO Judge and the Roadrunner. They'd want to have different cars that could appeal to different buying groups. And the Heavy Chevy kind of really leaned into that vibe, right? Something like you see later on, like the Macho Trans Ams, and they'd have all these just kind of really cool, like, you know, masculine cars they'd want to sell to young guys. And this was a version of that. Like I said, available for 2 years only in 71 and 72 on the Chevelle, with the 350 manual or automatic and that really basic interior. But this is pretty cool. You don't see the Heavy Chevys all that often. They didn't sell in the numbers like the SSs did. So to see one of these is pretty cool because it's just something you don't see all that often. This very cool A12 Super Bee, 69.5. Now, I've never seen the Super Bee version. I've seen the Roadrunner version. The A12 was a special package. You can see the lift-off hood. So all these cars came with the 446 pack setup. They had the 4-post lift-off hood with the 4 hood pins. They had the black steel wheels with no trim rings. So this is exactly how the car came out of the factory, with that 446 pack, with that hood, with the black steelies, and it was available in the Superbird. The Super Bee or the Roadrunner, and they were real bare bones, right? The A12 was designed to be a performance car. You can see in here we have a column shift, so a Torque Flight 727 automatic, the 446 pack, the Steelies. Now this obviously has a more aggressive rear tire than would have came out of the factory, but this thing's super cool. Like I said, I've seen the Roadrunners. I have not seen the Super Bee versions of the A12, so super excited to share this one with you just because it's something, again, I have not seen this version of the car. I love it. Again, check out how cool this hood is, right? The whole thing comes off with the vinyl top. You can sit it right on top. You don't worry about scratching the paint, but then you get the 4-post, you put the hood pins in, and you got the big motor with the 3.2 barrels. 89 IROC as a video for my buddy Joe, who loves watching the videos. You've seen him on some of the stuff we've done. He's had a bunch of Camaros. When Joe and I worked together a long time ago, I had an 87 GTA, he had an 87 IROC. This is an 89 5.7, so the big motor. This has the factory window louvers. It has the T-tops. Black and red is a great color combination. I love the factory IROC wheels. I love the louvers on the hood. The IROC just had a great style. You know, they've sold 1 million of these cars, but now these kids, you know, love it now. The same thing like our age, right? The guys that are my age are getting back into it, and to see a 33,000 original model car is super cool. This is exactly what I would have been racing back with my 88 in the early 90s, right? These are the exact same cars or style of cars we've been racing together. This has a little more horsepower, 245 horse, but it is heavier. And typically the 5.0s were a little quicker than these. I mean, they were both super quick. The only downside to these and the 5.7, and I've talked about this before, you could not get a manual transmission from the factory. They didn't want it to compete directly with the Corvette. So if you wanted a manual IROC, you got the 305. If you decided you wanted the 5.7, you could get the an automatic. You could get an automatic in the 305 also, but the only option for a manual was the 305 motor. You couldn't do it with the 5.7. Pretty cool. You know, I've shot some AMXs at the shows. I really like the Javelin. This is a 72 SST 304 jet set blue with the Torque Flight 727. There's a couple of really cool things on this car. I love the fender lines on this car, the way they kind of built that hump up. You know, it kind of gives it a little bit in that front end of a Stingray vibe with those, you know, those fenders that bulge up. Same thing in the back, the fenders are cool. My favorite thing on the 72 Javelin is this roof line. I love the little ducktail spoiler that's built into the roof, and I love this recessed part of the roof that looks like almost like the old race cars. You know, they set it up to be like, you know, like almost like T-tops with the factory style, and you would never see that on cars today, right? This is just a very cool aesthetic piece that ties into the car. Again, like I said, it's a 727 Torque Flight automatic. I like the automatic transmission setups in these. They're pretty cool. You know, this one's interesting, right? Because it's a console shift, but it also has a setup for you know, a column shift, but it's also set up for console shift. And just good looking interior, kind of that cockpit inspired interior like you'd see like in the Grand Prix. But again, when's the last time you saw one of these, especially in a 72? And this is a great color, and it just looks awesome in that, you know, basically very factory and original. Really common a couple of years ago. I see a little bit less of them now, but they made a bunch of these. So when the Gone in 60 Seconds remake came out in the early 2000s, this was everybody's dream car. You know, the 67 Shelby GT500 Eleanor in this gunmetal gray with the black stripes. The body kit's awesome on this. The side exhaust, the knockoff wheels. I mean, look how beautiful this car is. Now, this one does have the Gone Baby Gone switch for the nitrous in here. I don't know if it's a nitrous car or not, but there were a ton of these cars that got converted, and these conversions can range from, you know, $80,000 for an inexpensive one to some of the really high-end versions of these, you know, are well into the, you know, $150,000, $200,000 range, and this car just looks great. I mean, again, how cool is it to drive like a movie-accurate version of this car with the Go Baby Go button, you know, manual transmission, GT500 in that Eleanor style. Just a super. We're gonna do a quick run through on these three cars here just because they're so cool, right? 63 split window in black with knockoff wheels. You guys know how special those are. We talked a ton about them at the Corvette show last week. We have a beautiful Grand National. Looks like either an 86 or an 87. So 87, this car new was like 18 grand, man. I wish I could go back. I love these cars. The only difference I would ever do, obviously, is I would want one with T-tops, but this is my favorite like interior. I love the gray and black interior with the Turbo 6 logo. And then last night I went with some friends and my wife to go see the Back to the Future musical, and obviously this car was featured very prominently in this musical last night. And so this is a very cool version of a DeLorean. You got the hoverboard, the flux capacitor. So I just wanted to shoot these very cool cars and share them with you, because they were 3 pretty neat cars all together, and 3 cars I would love to add into my garage someday if I had enough money and enough space. Shoot up here is pretty cool. 1986 Buick Regal T-Type. In rosewood, so that's the original color. You can see we actually have a couple things we talked about before between the Grand National and the T-Type. The cool thing is the owner's had this for a long time, and he owns a Grand National, so he could really kind of explain all the differences to me. But I was pretty familiar, but a couple of things that stand out, obviously, if you had the Grand National versus the T-Type, you would have the different center cap, the different wheels as well. I like these wheels. These are like a less turbine-y version of my turbines and my Mustang, if it makes sense. It's still a turbine style wheel, but way easier to clean. So good job to you, GM. You're not in there with a Q-tip, because you can actually get in and clean the wheel. It does have the Buick center cap emblem in the center cap, which is great. You know, we do have the turbo logo on the back. The interior really doesn't give you a ton of clues to the T-Type other than the steering wheel, right? So on the Grand National, you'd have the Turbo 6 in the center cap for the steering wheel. On this, you have T-Type. It does say T-Type on the side with the intercooled badge. You do get the 3.8 SFI turbo logo on the hood, and then you're getting the same motor that you have in the Grand National. What was cool about this is it was kind of a sleeper version of the car. So if someone didn't know what they were looking for, you'd pull up and it looked like your grandmother's Regal, right? Chrome front bumper, a really subdued color. But this car was just as fast, if not faster, than the T-Type. Think about this as the Mustang 5.0 LX and the Mustang 5.0 GT. This would be like the LX version. It was a little bit lighter. It was a little bit more of a sleeper. So you could, like I said, you kind of could surprise people a little bit with this. But this is a beautiful version of this car in this color. And it's cool to see this in like the 86. Now, if you're going to get these cars, you want an 86 or 87. You want the ones with the intercooler. It's got better performance. It cools better. It's got better performance, more horsepower. So you want to go 86 or 87 if you can on one of these cars, because that's going to be the best version of these. And unfortunately, like I said, after 87, these cars would die out. Guys, I'm going to shoot something I always talk about and I never see, and it's the Mustang Cobra II. I am always looking for Mustang Cobras. I never see them in the Mustang 2s. This car, again, now the King Cobra is the one I've always wanted to find. Like, you don't see very many. The Cobra 2s see a little bit more, but this car is great. A little tiny car, a nice little body kit, great paint, you know, the black and gold, very much in the Smokey and the Bandit livery. This obviously has aftermarket wheels, but it does have the Cobra center cap. But this was a fun little car, right? It performed, it was quick, it didn't weigh very much. This one has, like, you know, obviously a more of a drag strip style automatic transmission with a reverse lockout, but the gauges on there look like they're pretty factory. They've added some auxiliary gauges, but this car just looks cool to me, right? You know, you got the Cobra graphics, the black with the gold, the rear window louvers, the side window louvers, you know, essentially kind of mimicking a little bit of what Pontiac would do with the turned aluminum dash. This is more like a stainless steel dash and kind of a basic interior, but these cars are great, right? Again, people talk about the Mustangs 2 with no love. I talk about this all the time. The Mustang 2 from 74 to 78 kept the car alive, right? It was a short generation. It literally only lasted for like 4 or 5 years, but 2 of the best-selling years of Mustang of all time were the Mustang 2s in 74 and 75. They had to keep the hobby alive with those 4-cylinders, and I think 1974, I think it won Motor Trend's Car of the Year. These cars were incredibly important, and I'm glad to still see them show up at the show sometimes, because I think people just kind of forget about them or don't give them any love, and they're really important to the history of the Mustang. Right, so what do you do when you want to show up and be the coolest guy at the party? You come with a 71 Hemi Cuda convertible in blue with a white billboard stripe, with the shaker hood scoop and a 4-speed manual transmission. This car is so cool, but there's a couple of things on this car that I really like that I want to call out. One is just the originality under the hood, the old style battery. Everything is factory correct looking. I don't know if it's all factory correct, but it's all factory correct looking, like it would have come out of the factory. There's no chrome, there's no extra accents. It just looks amazing to what you would have with this car in 71. But my favorite party trick on this car being a convertible that I love, so to get the ultimate high performance version of this car with the Hemi and the manual, to have a luggage rack to me is just so cool. You know, Corvette would do similar things. They give you this crazy high performance version of the car, but they wanted to make it a little more practical, so you had the option for a luggage rack. I think that's awesome. You know, I love these Hemi billboard stripes. I just think this was kind of the pinnacle of style for these cars. I mean, you have the great looking wheels, the body lines are beautiful, that shaker hood scoop, but that Hemi billboard stripe just calls it out. And again, you have that with the 340, the 383, the 440, but obviously you see that kind of that mystical Hemi billboard, and you know you got something special right there. But again, I love the fact that they put this really cool car with a really practical luggage rack. It just looks super cool. I love a C3 Corvette. Always speak highly of them. You've heard me talk about them at the Corvette shows. If you're gonna have a C3, I think this is the way to go. I really like this car. It's a 1980, so you get the little more aggressive fenders. You've got the side exhaust, these great wheels that look awesome on the car. Really nice, clean interior. Obviously a T-top car. But the party trick to this car is two things. The 383 stroker, so you got a big motor. These cars factory at the time would have been running around 200 horsepower. Which is crazy. You know, this is a high performance car, so this would have been a factory like 200 horsepower car, but it also would have had a different hood scoop. So we've kind of incorporated like the C2 Stinger hood into this, or the early C3 Stinger hood into this car with the 383. So tons of horsepower, great looking big wheels, side exhaust. This is a really cool resto modded version of an 80 C3, and I absolutely love it. Great color combination as well. All right, guys, you guys know I like a really cool story, so I'm going to actually talk about this 73 Le Mans. I love the story. I got to talk to the owner. This has been in the family since new. Grandfather bought the car. It kind of got passed down to the family, and over the years it got rusty, it got kind of beat up. So when he inherited the car, drove it through high school, he's kind of turned it into his passion project, something about speed. 462 Pontiac motor, putting out about 700 horsepower. The car also has a turbo 400, recently rebuilt. It's got a full cage because the car will run 1060s. Ford 9-inch with 410 gears, and you can see we have the lift-off hood scoop. I'm assuming fiberglass with the really cool blower. You know, you've got the I love when these guys do this too. Hey, if it's a race car, leave the rubber on the rear quarters. It was there, leave it there. We were just joking a little bit. These cars, the only downside when you build a race car like this is it's tough to drive slow sometimes. And he's like, you can drive anything on the street, and you absolutely can, but sometimes it's a little tougher to drive these slow than it would be later. You know what's interesting too is you start to see these mid-70s cars. I don't shoot this a lot, but as you get into the mid-70s cars, you're gonna see they move the lock more inboard. Now, this was a little bit controversial for a couple of reasons. One is people hated the lock being inboard because you just kind of couldn't put your arm on the windowsill and cruise. But if you ever wonder why they actually put that lock from here to here, it was really easy on the late 60s cars to actually go in and pop a lock to steal a car. When you had the lock right here, you could pry in from the side of the door, get in and pop it up. So as you see, as time moved on, the door locks got moved to more the center of the car, made it much more difficult for somebody to go in and steal that car. So something I figured I'd share with you, but this is a really cool version of that 73 Pontiac. Again, something you don't see all that frequently, with that great looking big block motor, 700 horsepower, and it's been in the family since day one. Super cool story, cool car. Something else super cool, 72 Chevelle convertible with a roll bar, with a big 502 under the hood. This thing is really neat. I just, you know, the motor drew me in when I was looking at it originally. This thing is super clean under the hood. You know, that really nice big air cleaner. You can see, you know, the valve covers in the right Chevy orange. This thing is awesome. But what really, like I said, kind of pulled me in was seeing a convertible with the roll bar. This is set up as a drag setup. You can see the rat rages, so the rat fink inspired cowl induction hood on here. We've got a B&M shifter, looks like with a reverse lockout, right? So it looks like it's set up to drag race. This thing looks great. Again, I love the Krager SS wheels on this. It fits in great with the car. We do got a set of wheelie bars. This is just a really neat version of a Chevelle convertible. Now, Chevelle convertibles are somewhat rare anyway, but to see this like SS version of a Chevelle convertible that's converted into a drag car with the full roll cage, with the big motor, with the cowl induction hood, this thing is super cool. My favorite cars of all time, and one I don't see a ton, the 1969 AMC SC Rambler, or the Scrambler. 390 car, had this really cool red, white, and blue paint job. There were two different versions of this. There was the A-code paint scheme, which this was. They made about 1,500, about 1,000 were this paint scheme. The second paint scheme changed the red, white, and blue to the side, did not have the stripe on the top of the roof. Couple of things super cool on this. Obviously, the 390 cubic inch motor, 315 horsepower, 4-speed manual transmission, the cool blue wheels. the red, white, and blue headrests on here, which look absolutely so cool on this car. The Hearst shifter, and you can see we have the factory window sticker. This car new was about $3,100 back in 1969. Such a cool version. Again, we get cool versions of cars today, but I always loved this car. It always stuck out to me. You guys know I like stuff that's kind of patriotic, but I loved the really like cool like mailbox style hood scoop, right? The 390 badge that, you know, shooting into the cold air, which just looks so neat. And again, just a really cool color combination with a great interior. A car we don't see as often as I would like to see. And again, with 1500, they're fairly rare. This is just a very cool version of a 1969 AMC. All right, guys, I got to shoot this beautiful 1967. Now, it could be a 68, but I believe it's a 67 by the placement of the fog lights. And from what I saw on the VIN number on the side, it looks like a 7. If it's an 8, I apologize. It could be, but it looks like a 67. There wasn't a huge change between 67 and 68 in the style, but this one's great in that yellow. 428. So this is the KR, the King of the Road edition. This car is just gorgeous. Again, we talked about this before with the 69 and 70 Mach 1s. There's a debate in the Mustang community as which is the best looking version of the Mustangs ever, and it's so close. I mean, it's, you know, I vacillate back and forth. When I'm next to a 69 or 70, I think that's the best looking. When I'm next to a 68 or 67 or 68, I think that's the best looking. It's so tough because they're both just beautiful cars. And here you'd see obviously the Cobra valve covers, the 428. What I like about this, again, like we talked about with that Hemi, everything under here is very original. You don't see anything extraneous. A lot of Cobra guys like to put on like a lot of different chrome accents or Cobra stuff. This one is just super simple, and it's been really kind of kept true to the originality of the car. You even got like the biplius tires, the Firestone wide oval, you know, tires. You do have most likely a C6 automatic on these. Most of these came with the C6 transmission with the automatic in these Cobras. Beautiful interior, the Shelby steering wheel, that great fastback line that goes up to this kind of this ducktail type spoiler, and then those sequential tail lights. Just a beautiful version of, you know, a 67 or potentially 68 Shelby GT500. Up here is this stunning 64 Impala lowrider. You can see the setup in the back, so all the airbag suspension back there that's been beautifully integrated into the car. This car is absolutely a labor of love. You can tell it's this beautiful yellow with this silver on top. The graphics are all airbrushed in. What I love about these is just the attention to detail. The gold Impala SS details, the gold Dayton wheels, obviously the gorgeous paintwork all throughout the car, but how everything just integrates in together. A really clean interior. But even as you get into the front end, like the motor, you have the gold hood hinges, everything chrome under the hood, beautiful wheels. Like everything about this car has been done right. Even look at the details in the rear view mirror. Like you see everything, the door handles has all been integrated in, all engraved. This is a labor of love that somebody did an absolutely incredible job with. And you can see the pride of ownership, the passion of putting something like this together, which again, some people love the lowrider, some don't. I think when it's done to this high of a level, how can you not love a car like this? And it just looks incredible with this paint, with the airbrushing, all the incredible work that's been done. So beautiful. We got another Mach 1 up here. We're gonna do all the Mach 1s we see up here today, right? This is a very cool newer version of the Mach 1. This is my favorite color in this newer version. I liked this car. I have to be honest, everything I read, it was not a great sales success for Ford, unfortunately. I think it wasn't enough of a performance differentiator or even aesthetically enough of a differentiator to justify the price difference, which is just shame because I really like it in this gray with the darker accents, with the orange stripe, with the orange Brembo brakes, the nice looking wheels, the beautiful interior on these cars. I think they did a great job, but again, I just think, unfortunately, they just didn't have maybe enough differentiation to sell well for Ford. But I think these are a future collectible and a future classic because, again, I don't think they sold as well as they should have. And I think people in a few years are going to realize, hey, I'd like a special edition Mustang that maybe isn't a dark horse or a Shelby. I think these are going to be a future collectible. So if you can find one now and if you have the money and space, buy one and put it away. I think you'll be happy. Saleen Fox body. And we have a real one here today, 1989, number 476. Got a chance to talk to the owner. Really good dude. We've actually talked. He's watched a few of the videos, so he kind of knows what we're about. But what I love about the Saleens, and we've talked about it, is kind of the hybrid of what they did with the GT. I love the LX grille. I think it just looks great. He's got the newer wheels, the forged one-piece wheel. Obviously the racecraft suspension. Got the flow-through ventilation seats, which I absolutely love. The car's got about 90,000 miles on it. You know, we were talking, it's kind of a work in progress. There's still some stuff he wants to work on, some of the paint stuff, getting some of the stuff kind of just perfect the way he likes it. but I love this car. What I like about it is he bought it in 2016 before it got too expensive, excuse me, and so he got this for a very reasonable price. Like, these cars are really, you know, even in this condition, you're still looking in the mid-30s now. They've gotten to be a really crazy price, so I love the fact that he's had it for about 9 years, but he got it for a reasonable price. He enjoys it. He bought it with the, you know, 75,000 miles. He's put like 15,000 miles on it. He drives the car. It is super cool.
So it's a 79 Ford Fairmont. Started life as a regular Fairmont, got a little modified and changed and did everything myself. Drivetrain, 408 stroker, came out of a drift car that dominated the track every week. So I kind of wanted that engine. Tremec TKX, 8.8 rear end, Cobra R brakes, front and rear, all coil over suspension. Try to make the drivetrain set up so the car runs, handles, stops really good for a little sleeper. Fuel injected sniper setup, got a 511 horsepower, 524 torque to the rear wheels. Drive it every day, is my everyday driver. Was built, painted, everything at my house, by myself at my house. And that's it. I got a little more finishing up to do for get the AC working. I'll put the interior in, and I'm gonna drive this car till I can't drive it anymore. It keeps me out of trouble, a little bit in trouble, but I can talk my way out of that. But it's a fun little car to drive, and it's just, I love just coming to car shows and being here and doing what I love. I just love cars, all years, makes, models, doesn't matter. This is what we live to do, you know what I mean? Just fun
to shoot up here is something pretty cool. A 1970 Porsche 914-6, so this is the 2-liter 6-cylinder. I just learned today that these have two 3-barrel carburetors, essentially one barrel for each cylinder. It's about 110 horsepower, but this car weighs under 2,000 pounds. This is such a cool, fun car, and there's a couple things I really like on this version. I love the fog lights they have in the front of the car. I think it looks very cool. It almost gives it a rally type look. I love the chrome Futch wheels, some of my favorite wheels ever. My wife tells me to shut up about Futch wheels because every time I see a Porsche, I'm like, does it have those wheels? Because I just really like that style. I think they're iconic. But this was a really cool mid-engine car, right? This was the entry-level version of what Porsche had to kind of give them an option below the 911 for somebody that wanted a really cool high-performance car. That was a lot of fun to drive. I think this car looks cool. I think it's grown on a lot of people over the years. I think originally a ton of people maybe didn't love the style on the car. I absolutely do. I think they look great. The interior is very utilitarian, just like Porsche does. So what Porsche is again, it was designed to be functional. It wasn't designed to be beautiful. Not that they weren't attractive, but it was more functionality over form. And I love that Porsche did that. And again, what a cool version of this, and the little 914. And I will say thank you. This car is dedicated to his dad, who passed away as a Vietnam veteran. So thank you for your service, sir. I love the memory of the car. So just a cool little 914. All right, guys, the next car we're going to shoot up here is something that's pretty cool. 1976 Torino. You guys know this better as the Starsky and Hutch car. Got a chance to talk to the owner. He's owned it for about a decade. So this was not one of the limited production that came out from Ford, but this car was actually built by the original builder of the car for the TV show for a charity auction over in Vegas. These cars were so cool. What really made these cars stood out is obviously the 351 with the 2-barrel. This is a C4 automatic, but that iconic red with the stripe on the side, the really cool mag wheels. Like, this car was the epitome of what 70s cool was, because it really looked cool. Now, this isn't a knock against all the 70s stuff, you know, but as we got later into the 70s with the smog emission, a lot of the cars decided to look faster than they really were. And that's just kind of the reality of what we dealt with the 70s and the smog stuff. But they did such a cool job. Like, every kid wanted one of these cars. You think about like the 70s, you know, you wanted a Starsky and Hutch car, you wanted a General Lee, you wanted something that just looked super cool and fast. And they did such a great job of making these screen cars desirable for the public. And this is a great example, right? The Torino as a car is a very cool car. But it was more of a family car, right? It didn't have, you know, a ton, especially by this time along, it wasn't really a high performance car. Adding these really cool looking mag wheels, adding that stripe really made this car highly desirable. I like it a lot. I think it's super cool. And like I said, anytime I see one at a show, I always want to share it, because again, you don't see these a ton, and it's just a great version, a little different here. We've shot a lot of Impalas. You guys know I'm a big fan of the Impala, but this is a 65, but what's unique on this car is it's really a small block, 283, 2-speed power glide in the Impala. So in 65, the Impalas would grow a little bit, they get a little longer. I really like the aesthetic on these. I think the body style was really sharp. You know, you have the Novas and the Malibus, that would be the small and intermediate. This would be more of a full-size car, but it's a great looking version. Now, this is a drum brake car in the front. It's actually a 4-wheel drum brake car, again, with the 283 and the 2-speed power glide in the SS option package. You'd still maintain the 3 taillights. Again, we talk about the interior on these, which I like quite a bit. They do a really nice job on the interiors on the Impalas. Now, you see this did have more of a moderate gauge package. You still have some of the accessory gauges on the outside of the bar speedometer, but you'd have a little bit of like the stainless inside and the chrome. And then you get my favorite part, which is that cutout between the rear seats with the Impala logo. So this is just a cool version of this car. But like I said, I don't often see these with the small block 283 and the 2-speed power glide in the SS. So it's a pretty cool version of this car. All right, we're gonna wrap up, everybody. This was a great show. My first time coming out to this show. Thank you for the person running that show, putting, kind of sharing a little bit of information. It does go to charity. Super fun time, a ton of great cars. Guys, lots of stuff coming up over the next few weeks. Shows in Rhode Island and Dedham, at the Cars and Coffee at Bach, just tons of cool stuff. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do so. I look very forward to seeing everybody at the shows. Please grab me. I talked to a lot of folks today that saw the videos and know me. Come grab me. I'd love to talk about your car and just have a great conversation with you. Thanks.